Hey guys, Dean here. Today we're going to be talking about how you can get rich during this recession and basically leverage a bad event or situation, i.e. the current recession, and benefit from it. How you can prepare from it, what you should be doing right now, and of course to create a profit in the future. So let's jump into it. So first of all, this is not financial advice. This video is just from my personal viewpoint and opinion. With everything with money and investing, it's always best to obviously consult a financial advisor, but I'm going to give you some tips based on current trends, information, and the most recent events, and basically talk to you about this recession. So basically, any smart millionaire out there, or the billionaires that we read books about, they'll always tell you about certain things, what they did during the 2008 recession and how they basically weathered the storm and leveraged that recession to create massive wealth many years later. And I believe the same can basically be done right now during this recession, because we've seen it done before in the past, and why can't we just replicate the same results, right? So we want to prepare, we want to reduce high interest debt, we want to save money and leverage obviously the ability to invest and create additional income to try and create generational wealth in the future. So this is the whole point of this video, right? Okay, so the first thing to talk about is the USA is officially already in a recession. Okay, even though they reported it a little bit late, it is officially in a recession, and obviously reports recently have been talking about Europe, or the EU if you like, heading directly into a potential recession too. So we've already received news on that. It seems to be that the EU are heading in a very similar direction. So all around the world, it seems to be quite a current trend that this is happening, right? First of all, you need to understand that a recession is a normal part of an economic cycle. So you shouldn't really be worried or panic. You just have to be prepared and make the right moves when possible, so you can be one of the people who benefits from it. Because most people fearmonger, most people get scared, and they don't make the moves that they could do to actually get some money and take advantage of it. Now, this is extremely important, especially if you work in a 9-to-5 job or a job which has a fixed monthly income. It's really important to try to create an emergency fund. Now, this is something which most people kind of require anyway. It's kind of advised that you should save 3 to 6 months of funds in an emergency fund just in case something goes wrong. Well, in this particular situation, building up a 12 to 24 month emergency fund is vital, mainly because you have more of a threat of a layoff because you're working for a specific company and you're obviously under them. So if they cut off employees and you potentially lose your job, you're going to have problems there, right? The reason why you want to create a bigger emergency fund than usual, and also focus on having one in general if you already don't, is because you don't want to have to dip into investments or money that you're holding in certain other ventures just because an emergency or a shortage of funds happens to you, because that's going to hurt you in the long run because you're not going to get any return on assets that you've withdrawn. And next up is minimizing any kind of high interest debt, right? So negotiating credit card interest rates with a card issuer. This can be quite important if you're using credit cards to try and improve your credit, and also try to pay off any kind of debts where possible. So make sure any payments are made, routine payments, so it doesn't get worse, doesn't affect your credit score, and obviously doesn't put you in debt in general, because we don't want to be building high interest debt, which is going to be very detrimental to us in the long run, especially during kind of hard times like this. Now, next up is savings. So if you're working a 9-to-5 job, a percentage each month being saved is a good idea, right? Now, usually my typical advice or my typical point of view wouldn't be to save, or it wouldn't be just to save, it would be to invest, or it would be to make more money and hustle so you can actually afford those small things. Because the typical analogy is someone who maybe goes to Starbucks and spends a few $100s maybe a month on fancy coffees, right? Instead of downscaling your life and saving every single penny, you want to kind of create more money so you can enjoy those small benefits. During a recession, it's kind of different, okay? So the honest truth is cost cutting, saving, and investing where possible is kind of the only advice. It's the appropriate advice. So saving is a good thing, and cutting back on certain things might be worth applying in this situation. We're basically looking to mitigate risk and survive, but also take advantage of the specific opportunity. Now, if you scale up your lifestyle or increase your money and set yourself up for life during the recession, don't scale up your life with it. If you're increasing your income, right, or if you're getting more money than you used to, you don't want to scale up your life according to the new income or the new money you have in your bank, because your spending is going to increase. It's not really going to benefit you, okay? I would advise during this specific situation, just live frugally or be a little bit more money conscious than usual if you don't tend to be normally, and try and retain your current life. When the economy recovers, I think it will really be a benefit to you by actually doing this. Now, as with all situations, we're going to go on to creating additional income, all right, because that's always important. Now, it's important, more important than ever, to basically focus on building other sources of income to supplement your main job or your main business. So if you already have a business, think about side hustles and side income streams you can create to supplement that, to basically compound on what you're already earning. This is important with a job. For an example, if you're fired, you'll now have something to fall back on if you create something new that generates money for you. Basically, starting a side hustle or some kind of business from home in your spare time can be really useful. Now, you can check my description of this video because I do have some really good videos on different home business ideas you can start. I originally did that for the lockdown for people who maybe lost out on the job or they wanted to do something because they had so much free time, but it applies now in the same situation. So home business ideas and side hustles that you can start now from home. Now, some examples could be as well, if you just wanted to work from your phone, you could be an Uber driver or a Lyft driver, or you could just join one of those delivery apps, right? So you could just do some food delivery on Uber Eats or something like that. It allows you to basically create a little bit of extra money. Like Amazon also have a delivery app. It's like $15 an hour. It doesn't cover your gas for your car, but you can make some extra money and it's quite lucrative. And if you gain a full income that's independent of your job or allows you to leave your job, you won't then have to tie your time to money, which you're probably doing if you have a normal job. Because obviously you hear on these videos all the time, and it is the truth, that the time exchange for money is what's usually keeping people from being rich, because there's not really any ways to break out of that box. Making some kind of online cash flow business that requires the least amount of startup money is really important. My videos, which I mentioned before, will highlight a lot of these ideas that are either cheap or no cost to become from home, and that's usually the best ones which you should be starting out with. The next one is location, right? So this one really only applies to digital nomads or YouTubers or anyone like copywriters who work from their laptop or from home or have one of the home businesses which I basically mentioned from those videos. This is important because if you're a remote worker or some kind of worker that's not really tied down, maybe you don't have a family, maybe you're young, and maybe you don't have a job which is in a specific country and you can move around a lot, you could actually move to a different country for a few years to actually mitigate cost, right? So this can allow you to save a lot of money and basically use all these tips, and it's a lot easier. For an example, if you move to somewhere like Colombia in the Americas, which is super cheap, or somewhere like Romania in Europe, or even Turkey, because the value of the Turkish lira dropped a lot and everything's so cheap in a lot of these European countries and foreign countries, the Western currency which you might have if you're from the UK like me or from America can go a really long way. These countries can save you a lot of money, and they're typically very cheap to live in, and they're really good for saving. So let's go over a few key terms, right? So we have the bear market, when the market drops 20% from its peak, and then we have a bull market when there's a 20% rise from that recent low. These are two main important terms for investing which you should get familiar with. After a bear market, the bull market usually tends to return. Buying low and selling high here is usually the best strategy in terms of investing. So buying during a recession or a bear market is where the riches are usually made. Consider buying stocks or index funds while they're at this all-time low. In a few years, your bank will probably thank you. Now, this is super risky and everyone's rushing to sell, or they don't want to buy because everything's dipped and it doesn't look like they're going to make any money. But especially in the case of stocks, where we have many years of long-term data, the market usually tends to recover. So if I was to give advice, I'd probably say buy stocks. But if you have a lot of potential risk to take and a lot of money which you don't mind potentially losing, then investing in crypto could also be a great idea. Now, you need to realize that investing during a recession requires strong will. Okay, just like the crypto term when people say diamond hands or hodl or hold, this kind of applies here in the same situation, even with things like investing in stocks, right? So you should basically only invest what you're prepared to lose or be able to not touch. You need to not touch this money, okay? This could even potentially, for a minimum duration, have to sit for 5 to 7 years to compound or get any kind of return, right? And you need a long-term approach to investing in general, especially during a recession or an area where the market needs to recover. This means you don't obsessively check your portfolio for changes. This is something which I had to basically teach a few friends who just invested, because they constantly be looking at the numbers changing, and it's just not really good for your mental health when you see everything in big red numbers where it says you made a loss, but if you wait over time, it will be back in the green, trust me. So invest in index funds, I would still recommend, is a good idea, right? So the S&P 500 is still down and it's hit an all-time low, or it did hit an all-time low. However, betting on the S&P or similar index funds allows you to theoretically invest in or bet on the long-term success of US business as a whole and the US market itself. And like I mentioned before, in the case of stocks and the US market specifically, we have enough long-term data to suggest that it's a solid bet and a good investment because the market always seems to recover, okay? So investing in individual stocks is more risky, but if you're going to invest, try and research certain markets like the food market, healthcare, and consumer products, for an example, like pet products or any kind of market that's always in demand even during a recession, because these markets won't take as much of a heavy hit and they might still perform well and give you a good return. Try and prioritize portfolio diversification if you're investing in individual stocks. Investing in an index fund already does this for you, so I don't see why you'd want to not do that. I say invest in index funds though, mainly because trying to time the market is usually a fruitless endeavor, because they've done studies in the past where they had people who invested manually and they tried to time the market and create their own hedge fund, right? And they tried to compete with the S&P 500, which is the index, and basically the S&P 500 always won in terms of performance. So trying to time the market and doing everything manually is never going to be as good as just investing in an index fund. That's just how it is. Building a portfolio of individual stocks is still very lucrative and it's kind of a different situation. Let's talk about other investments. So first of all, I'm going to talk about crypto, right? Because crypto kind of seen an all-time downturn too recently. I personally think crypto is a risky investment because, like I've said twice before, and I'm going to repeat myself again, is there's not really as much long-term data as stocks. We've had like 2 or 3 big dips in crypto where like Bitcoin's crashed and people are wondering, is it going to recover? And then it has, and it's hit an all-time high. Like I think it was like 2021, Ethereum hit an all-time high or something like that. And we've seen recoveries in it, but we haven't got as many years of solid data as stocks. So it's kind of all a gamble. I mean, investing kind of is in general, but investing in crypto is an even bigger gamble because of this. I personally think it is a good long-term investment to invest in crypto, as it offers a specific type of utility and technology which I don't really think it has a replacement, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. So I think crypto still has its place and it probably will recover in the long term. I would say though, if you're going to invest in any crypto right now, since it's a big risk, I would just stick to the main staples like Bitcoin and Ethereum if you're going to try and buy them while they're low, and just generally stay away from altcoins. Me personally, I would completely avoid meme coins too. I would always avoid them anyway, but if you would ever touch them, I just give them a duck right now because they're not even worth it. But the only altcoin I think I still see value in though, regardless of the season, is probably Monero, because I've always kind of pushed that coin because of its privacy element and it has the unique technology in terms of its cryptography. So I think that's a good project. That's like the only altcoin which I would consider maybe buying more of. That's just my views on crypto. Now the next one is real estate, right? So it's extremely lucrative and it's always been very powerful. Of course, debt upon holding real estate assets and economic cycles do have a heavy impact on the success of this, but this is kind of like an asset class that takes a lot of people into the rich category, or from rich to extremely rich. So this would be something to keep an eye on, but since I don't have any real estate assets at this point, I don't want to talk too much on this based on having a lack of experience, but everyone knows that real estate is something you should look out for and potentially invest in if you're at that point. Of course, the easiest asset classes for most people to invest in is still stocks and crypto. They offer a nice return and it's the best asset class for dollar cost averaging into and investing into, so I'd recommend basically having your main focus on those. So that's going to be the end of this video on how you can get rich during the recession and prepare for the worst and mitigate any negatives. So if you like this video, give the video a like and subscribe for more videos on business like drop shipping, investing, and travel. Thanks for watching.